Hello, La Plata County voters. As I'm sure you know, voting season is here, and we all know that those ballots can get pretty confusing from time to time. So we here at Fort Lewis, in conjunction with the League of Women Voters, have made some presentations to help walk you through the different measures appearing on the November 3rd ballot. This presentation will discuss Proposition 113, which considers whether Colorado should adopt an agreement to elect the U.S. President by national popular vote. Now, Proposition 113 really boils down to what's known as the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, or the NPVIC. The NPVIC is basically this big group of states, and they're all agreeing to award their electoral votes to the winner of the national popular vote. And for the NPVIC to actually go into effect, the total number of elector votes of all the states in the compact must be equal to or greater than 270. Now, if you recall, the total number of votes needed to win the presidency is also 270. So the NPVIC aims to guarantee that the candidate that wins the popular vote also wins the election. As for now, 24 states, representing 196 votes, have agreed to enter the compact, and the decision to enter the compact is pending in 11 states, with 115 votes amongst them. So as you can see, the NPVIC centers around the Electoral College. And the Electoral College was written into the Constitution as sort of a compromise between allowing Congress to elect the president and allowing the people to. Essentially, the Constitution says that state legislatures send electors to vote in a way that represents them. And over time, this has sort of evolved to be a rubber stamp of the popular vote in most states. But that's not necessarily required by the Constitution. The states can award their electoral votes in any way that they see fit. So the NPVIC is sort of a way to change the functioning of the Electoral College while still staying within the confines of the Constitution. Those proponents of the NPVIC are quick to point out that one of the biggest issues with the Electoral College system is that the candidate that wins the popular vote can still end up losing the general election. This has happened 5 times throughout U.S. history, with the most recent being Trump's 2016 victory over Hillary Clinton. This also happened in 2000 when George Bush Jr. beat out Al Gore. Now, the NPVIC aims to make it so that this can't happen in the future, and the president that wins the popular vote always wins the election. So if you remember from earlier, different states get to decide if they want to join the NPVIC. Now, in Colorado, the NPVIC was originally passed by legislature and signed into law by Governor Polis in March of 2019. So that means Colorado is technically already in it. However, this year, people opposed to the NPVIC got enough signatures to put the question on the ballot. They want to repeal the legislation that was passed in 2019, and this is what's meant by a referendum bill. And it's what's going to happen if no votes win on Proposition 113. So Proposition 113 is really asking if Colorado should stay in the NPVIC or not. So now that we have some background on Proposition 113, let's consider what the effects of a yes or a no vote would have. Now, if Proposition 113 passes, Colorado will stay a member of the NPVIC and continue to contribute its 9 electoral votes to the compact, for a total of 196 out of the 270 electoral votes needed for the NPVIC to go into effect. So it will not affect the 2020 presidential election, but it could have substantial effects in elections in the future. Now, if Proposition 113 fails to pass, Colorado will withdraw from the NPVIC, bringing the total number of compact elector votes down from 196 to 187. Colorado will continue to award its electoral votes to the winner of the Colorado popular vote, just like it has in elections in the past. So now let's look at some of the arguments that those on both sides have. Let's start with proponents of Proposition 113, who argue that the NPVIC will increase popular sovereignty by bringing the vote back to the people. They say that the candidate who wins the presidential election should be the candidate the majority of the population wants to be represented by. They argue that the Electoral College suppresses voters by taking power away from the individual vote and delegating it to an institution that has failed to reflect the will of the people. They say that the NPVIC evens the playing field by bringing our electoral system closer to that one person, one vote democratic ideal. That votes for a minority party in a politically secure state, like a Republican vote in California, are essentially wasted, and that this wouldn't happen in the NPVIC, because the voters will be looked at from a collective, national perspective. In that same vein, proponents of the NPVIC also say that it will take power away from the swing states, whose votes essentially matter more than safe states. Now, because of their volatility, these states are prioritized by candidates who dump all their campaign resources and finances into them, The NPVIC would make it so candidates would no longer be able to count on safe states and would have to diversify their campaigns. Those who oppose the NPVIC say that it sidesteps the constitutional precedent. They say that the change to a popular vote election system should come in the form of a constitutional amendment, rather than as a series of legal agreements between the states, and that the NPVIC is just a way around the incredibly difficult task of amending the Constitution. They also say that the NPVIC would incentivize candidates to target high population areas during their campaigns, as to efficiently target the highest number of voters. Now, with campaigns focused on condensed population areas, the needs and concerns of people in rural areas would be outweighed. And they also say that the NPVIC would lead to disruptions in the election system. For example, the Blue Book says that since the NPVIC relies on legal agreements between states with different election policies, it could open the door to recounts and litigations, particularly in close elections. Now, in conclusion, the NPVIC ultimately aims to ensure that the presidential candidate who wins the national popular vote is elected to presidency. Voting yes on Proposition 113 is a vote for Colorado to remain in the NPVIC, while a no vote is a vote to leave the NPVIC. And the question really comes down to whether you believe Colorado's electoral vote should count towards the national popular vote or to the Colorado popular vote. Now, as you can also see, Proposition 113 is incredibly important, and your vote can really help decide how the president is elected. So now that you're educated on Proposition 113, take a stance, get out there, and vote.